case now before the Beit Din, the Jewish People's Court, is the case of the dying patient. Dr. Lawrence Krasnick, despite the pleas of the Kaminer family on behalf of husband and father Alan Kaminer, refuses to withdraw medication, including radiation treatment, from Alan's treatment, though he has been diagnosed a terminal cancer patient. Mrs. Kaminer and her daughter Margie are bringing charges of malpractice to the court because they are suggesting that their father and husband be allowed to die in a sense of dignity and his own time. The question of the right to die is the issue before the court in this case. The role of the physician is what will be decided by the Dayanim in this case, Rabbi Mordecai Simon and Rabbi Harvey Well, with Rabbi Peter Noble serving as Av Beit Din. The case of the dying patient.
Will the co-plaintiffs, Mrs. Sandra Kaminer and her daughter Margie Kaminer, and the defendant, Dr. Lawrence Krasnick, please step forward?
I'd like to welcome you today to the Beit Din. Our procedure today will be to ask Mrs. Kaminer to speak first, then Doctor for you to respond, and then we will ask Marge to add her comments, and afterwards my colleagues and I will address some questions to each of you. Mrs. Kaminer.
I came here today because this man is torturing my husband. My husband has been diagnosed as a terminal cancer patient. He's dying, and the doctor is continuing to give him radiation treatment and other drugs. And I don't understand what his goals are. He's told us there is no chance for any recovery. The man is dying, and he continues to torture him. I think he has lost sight of what his job is. He's not dealing with my husband anymore. He's dealing with a tumor that's there and not considering my husband, who has asked that this treatment please be stopped. He can't take any more of it.
Thank you. Doctor?
I think there are several issues here at hand in treatment of Mr. Kaminer. First, the diagnosis of a terminal disease is one we make based upon statistics. Obviously, the majority of patients with Mr. Kaminer's disease will die. However, occasionally, and after many years of practice as a cancer specialist, I've seen many patients like this. Many patients will survive the rather rigorous and difficult treatment. Some few will be cured. A few more will go on to several months to occasionally a year of active life free of discomfort and pain.
That is not what I was told.
Well, I think you misunderstood the term terminal. From a statistical point of view, yes, the majority of patients will die. However, I cannot, in all good conscience as a physician, withdraw treatment from this patient while he is still alive because I cannot, with absolute clarity, predict if and when he will die. Also, as a Jew, I am pledged to uphold life as long as it exists. Your husband is in a situation where, with great pain, of course, he asks that it all be over, just as a child might refuse treatment when they are in pain. I'm not sure that he is of a proper mind to make that decision. If I could give him the possibility even of a 0.5% that he might 3 months from now be alive if he survives the treatment, I'm not sure what rational decision he would make. I, as a physician, am not in the position of contributing to the death of patients, but in doing everything that I can to preserve their life, as long as there is even a minute chance that they may survive.
Margie, is there something you'd like to add?
Yes. Just as the daughter, my mother and I, we've been through a lot, and we've talked with my father when he was coherent, and he is in a lot of pain, and I think he does know that he would like to die with some dignity. And my mother and I feel that if he were at least able to come home and perhaps die with us there beside him, I think we could give him the comfort and the strength that he needs as well as we all need at this time.
Dr. Krasnick, could you describe precisely Mr. Kaminer's present condition and exactly what kind of treatment is being given to him?
Well, his present condition is critical. He's in the intensive care unit. He requires at the present time intravenous solutions and a respirator to maintain his life. However, he does have periods when he is lucid and able to communicate. Part of the treatment involves both giving intravenous medications, what we call chemotherapy, and also radiation. Part of his condition is a result of the treatment, which is extremely debilitating. The treatments will be completed in about 2 weeks, after which, if he has a positive response, he could probably go home within several weeks of that time. My feeling is that his present condition is such that if we stop all of the present support systems, he would probably die within several days. He's unable to eat and take nourishment.
Doctor, if I can just interrupt, I'd like to ask one question to you and one question to Mrs. Kaminer. Do I understand you in terms of your opening statement that there is a possibility that Mr. Kaminer may come through this illness, small statistical chance, but that the possibility exists?
Yes, the possibility exists. I cannot give you a number. This type of tumor...
Fine, thank you. Mrs. Kaminer, with this information, you interjected as the doctor was speaking before that you didn't understand his point during your previous conversations. With this information before you, do you feel more comfortable in terms of the treatment that he's going through?
No, I don't, because I don't think what the doctor means by his surviving is a real survival. There are organs that are already destroyed. This is not a man that can get life with any quality at all. We are not supporting life. He's supporting suffering. He's prolonging suffering. That is not life.
Thank you.
You heard the cliche, where there's life, there's hope. Could you quickly react to that?
The hope was gone months ago. This is a doctor's clinical.
You had the confidence in the doctor up to this point, and at this point you no longer have the confidence?
This is a statistic. This is not a human life.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The judges will now have to retire and render a decision in this case.
We now join the judges as they deliberate the case of the dying patient.
Gentlemen, this is, I think, a particularly heartrending case. We have a patient who is suffering a great deal. We have a family who is suffering a great deal. We've received expert medical testimony. How do you think we can best resolve this, taking into account both the expert medical testimony and the needs of both the family and the patient?
Well, it's my feeling that in this particular case, we'd have to defer to the opinion of the doctor. I think that there are two issues involved. Issue number one is in terms of the possibility of the patient to recover. A second situation, perhaps, would be if there was no hope that the patient would recover. Here it seems that the doctor has assured us that there is a statistical possibility that that could happen. And I think that following the halachic principle of the Chai Bohem, that you should live through the observance and not die through them, that we have no choice in this case but to find for the doctor.
I think there's another issue, the status of the patient at this immediate moment. As I heard the discussion, the patient was not in a comatose state, but was responding and reacting insensitive to pain, to treatment, and to the reactions of the medical as well as his familial team. I think that might also have a bearing on what do you do at this particular time.
You would then, gentlemen, feel that this was different from the case of Rabbi Yehuda when he was dying and his disciples were praying for him, and his servant threw a pot at them in order to stop their prayer to allow him to die peacefully. You don't think we have an analogous situation here where we can recommend the removal of treatment to remove the suffering?
No, I don't think, because I think over there it was clear in terms of that particular Talmudic case that you're citing that there was no hope, that Rabbi Yehuda was literally a go-safe and literally on his deathbed. Here, I don't think that the doctor has indicated that, and I found that the mother, the wife in this situation, felt as if the doctor had not really explained everything to her. She was rather surprised by his testimony also, and indicated that perhaps that would change her feelings somewhat on reflection, and I think we should encourage such reflection.
I think both parties were trying to do the best thing for the patient, no doubt in my mind. And perhaps somewhere along the line, the family should have been counseled to go to some of the hospice groups or the support groups to encourage them on how to handle this critical moment in their life vis-a-vis the relationship to the patient, in this case the father, the husband.
Or even, if I may add, to search out another doctor if they're uncomfortable with the decision or the capabilities of this particular physician.
It seems to me, gentlemen, we're in agreement that we have to support the doctor while showing sympathy for the family, recognizing that the real issue in this case is the possibility of a cure.
The rabbis return to announce their decisions.
This was a particularly difficult and particularly moving case for us. We were deeply moved by the anguish of the family and concerned by the pain and suffering of the patient. However, the doctor has testified very clearly that there is a possibility of a cure. Remote, but possible. Therefore, according to Jewish tradition, we are bound to find that treatment must continue because the patient is fully alive, that the patient has that possibility of continued life, and that to terminate the treatment at this point would be tantamount to actually taking that person's life. While we do not believe that pain and suffering are of value in and of themselves, we do believe that sometimes they become necessary in the pursuit of the higher value, which is the preservation of life. There are some who would say in such a circumstance that the use of artificial means would not be justified because there was no hope for that person to recover. And if the person were in such a condition that they would be considered under Jewish law to be a goses, a person in their final death throes, then I think it would be the decision of this court to go along with the family. However, since the physician indicates very clearly that this regimen of treatment does hold out the possibility of a cure, we must go with the physician. However, we do believe that it is important for the family to be satisfied with the physician, and that we would encourage the family, if they question the doctor's medical judgment or believe that the situation is other than the doctor describes, to seek other competent medical advice.
In the difficult case of the dying patient, the Beit Din delivers a decision that says that the doctor's decision, the doctor's medical judgment, must be upheld in this situation. That because the opportunity for life still exists, that because, remote though it may be, there is a chance that Mr. Alan Kaminer may survive and may recover from the dire illness from which he suffers, that the doctor's decision should be upheld, and that the family should abide by that decision and should join with the physician in helping to promote this sense of life. Should they not decide to do that, they may, of course, seek other help. This session of the Beit Din responds to the case of the dying patient. In this brief conversation, Rabbis Noble, Well, and Simon tell us something about the role of the Beit Din in modern and contemporary times.
The modern Beit Din is a direct successor to the ancient Beit Din. In the Reform movement, we rarely convene a Beit Din except perhaps to officiate at Geirut, at conversions. Rabbi Simon, can you tell us a little bit about the conservative Beit Din?
Well, actually, it operates in the same manner that the Orthodox Beth Din is the religious court. For the most part, I'd say today that the Beth Din adjudicates cases of divorce or sits as a group of dayanim, of judges, in the cases, as you pointed out, of conversions. From time to time, and in my capacity as Executive Vice President of the Board of Rabbis, I get some of these requests. Sometimes individuals have complaints or against a congregation, against a rabbi, congregation to rabbi, rabbi to congregation. We are called to adjudicate this outside of the civil courts. And sometimes neighbors come and say, we have a sichsach, we have a problem, and we want the rabbis, the rabbinic court, to adjudicate this. And perhaps in the Orthodox community, pretty much the
Well,
same.
I think in the Orthodox community, you have much more of a functioning of the Beit Din on a day-to-day basis. There are numerous situations in various cities where a Beit Din is called into session, anywhere from business problems or business disagreements to marital problems and down the line in terms of what was mentioned here. I just would like to add, in an Orthodox Beit Din, as I'm sure in the Conservative and possibly in the Reform, you have the concept of Zeb Borer, that both sides choose one judge and the two judges select the main judge.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was very enlightening.
The case now before the Beit Din, the Jewish People's Court, is the case of the rabbi's role. In this case, Olga Weiss, the plaintiff, mother of Jennifer, is bringing suit to the rabbis because her rabbi, Rabbi Martin Friedman, has offered a scholarship to Jennifer to go to Israel. Olga Weiss and her husband are not entirely sure that they want Jennifer to participate in this program. They are sure that in any case, Rabbi Martin Friedman, from their point of view, was wrong in how he provided Jennifer with this opportunity. Sitting on the Beit Din today are Rabbi Peter Noble Dayan, Rabbi Harvey Well Dayan, Rabbi Mordecai Simon of Beit Din. The case of the rabbi's role.
Will the plaintiff, Olga Weiss, and the defendant, Rabbi Martin Friedman, Temple B'nai Shalom, please step forward?
Shalom. Mrs. Weiss, would you present to the Beth Din the allegations and charges that you wish to bring against Rabbi Friedman?
My husband and I felt that Rabbi Friedman interfered in our domestic life and usurped his position between the parent and child relationship. We did not object to his presenting a scholarship to our daughter to go to Israel. What we did object to was the fact that he presented it to her directly rather than make the offer to us first. The problem of the finances was a problem. However, there were others, and these became immediately overshadowed by the presentation of the scholarship, and they never really came up.
Could we ask Rabbi Friedman to react to the allegations?
Yes, the Weiss family has been a very active family in my congregation. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, their son Herbert went on the very same program, which I've encouraged Jennifer to attend. And the entire congregation and the Weiss family derive much pleasure from the results of Herbert's trip. Jennifer is a very active member of our youth group, and I encouraged her, along with one or two other students, to consider such a program because they were eligible for it by virtue of their age. Jennifer was the one member of the group who expressed interest in it and told me that after discussing it with her family, the primary obstacle was funds. And through the generous support of a few members of my congregation, I was able to get the funds that would enable me to offer a scholarship to Jennifer. Jennifer is here, and perhaps we might want to hear from her if it would be the pleasure of this Beit Din.
I think it would be. Could we call Jennifer to take the stand, please? Jennifer, you have heard the exchange between your mother and Rabbi Friedman. Could you indicate your feelings towards this program and the scholarship program and the travel program and how you think it might affect you?
Well, when I discussed the option of my going to Israel with my parents, their main objection was the financial aspect. They said they didn't think that they could really afford it at this time. So with that in mind, I went to discuss it with my rabbi to see if he could find some solution to this. He told me about the scholarship, and I was very interested. And I then went to discuss it with my parents. They sort of felt that the rabbi should have come to them first.
Mrs. Weiss, you indicated you had no objection to the offer, but you felt that the rabbi ignored you. Is that the basis of your contention, or were there other underlying factors?
No, there were other problems to my objections to her going to Israel at this time. We were planning on going as a family the following year, and I felt that her first experience in Israel would be much better, much more meaningful had she gone with us. That was one situation. Another one was that I was very rather afraid of what was going on in Israel politically. It's a volatile situation, and she's a 16-year-old girl. I wasn't quite sure about the supervision of the program, and I had my reservations.
And Rabbi Friedman, was this ever expressed to you, these objections?
They weren't, and I feel terrible that they weren't, because I have such great respect and even love for the Weiss family from the kind of relationship that we've had over these years. And during the time when I first discussed the scholarship with Jennifer and the time that we're able to have it, we did not have such discussions, and I feel terrible that this has happened. I would hope that perhaps more familiarity, communication with the leaders of the program in New York and in Israel might have served to alleviate some of the fears that the Weisses had. And I feel that it is most unfortunate that we've come to this point.
Excuse me, may I just interject and ask one question? Rabbi, when you offered the scholarship, did you ask Jennifer to go back and discuss it with her parents as an option, or you offered her the scholarship and her discussion with her parents was at her prerogative?
Well, the sequence of events was that when Jennifer told me that she needed financial aid, I told her I would try to see if she would get financial aid. I did not ask her directly to go and ask her parents if that was forthcoming, would they accept. I accepted her word that her discussion with her parents really had indicated that they would be willing to take a scholarship.
Rabbi, at this point, my colleagues and I will take the matters that have been presented to this court under advisement, and shortly we will be rendering our verdict on this. Thank you.
Once again, the judges deliberate the issues.
Gentlemen, in this case, the question is whether the rabbi did not take too much authority upon himself I think for the right reasons. He meant well, but did he, in his zeal, go overboard and ignore or eliminate the parents because he was so concerned about bringing this child through the program and to have her take advantage of the scholarship or the educational facilities of Israel?
I think that the primary thing that we have to be concerned with is the commandment, honor your father and your mother. It seems to me that that parent-child relationship is the primary one. The rabbi, even for good reasons, seems to have stepped into that relationship in a way that was inappropriate. And therefore, it seems to me that the parent in this case really has a legitimate grievance. On the other hand, it seems to me that the argument has really gone too far. A little bit of communication should have solved this problem. The rabbi's intentions were really for the best. And I think that while we probably should find in favor of the parent, we should suggest that the situation be resolved by mutual conversation and understanding.
I think it's important to point out in our decision that the parents did, 2 years ago, the brother did go to Israel on apparently the very, very same program that the sister or the daughter wants to go. There was no objection, and maybe the rabbi, as I say, in his zeal to enroll the youngster, who probably came to him and said, I really want to go on this program, but you know, things are difficult at home, but I heard my parents talking or what have you. She didn't hear the other reasons of their anxiety, world situation. She's a youngster, and she has time. Plus the fact that they may not have shared with her the fact that they were contemplating themselves going to Israel next year, and they would rather do it as a family unit, that the rabbi kind of fell into the trap. And it's really not a trap, because trap is negative. Because I think whatever he was trying to do was positive, and he did overstep his limits. And I think of that verse in Genesis where when Abraham went with Isaac to the mountain, of course for a different reason. He was directed by God to go so, but in a sense, we want to make that pilgrimage to Eretz Yisrael, parent, child together, and that's we want to show the force of unity of family.
I agree, and I agree that we should try somehow to bring the rabbi and the family back together again. I think in this particular case, as the rabbis pointed out, the Talmudic dictum of Toli B'dat HaCherim, that this particular young lady is still under her parents' supervision applies, and therefore that the parents do have a legitimate claim, but on the other hand, that the rabbi, I don't think, should be dealt with too harshly.
Okay, that shall be our decision.
The rabbis return to announce their decision.
Rabbi and Mrs. Weiss, we have taken under consideration the charges, the defense, and very, very concerned about the idea, the main principle, that is the ultimate goal, namely what would be best for Jennifer. The goal of taking that trip, that visit, that study session, educational experience in Israel is of prime importance. Under the circumstances of the immediate case, however, the principle of respect and honor towards one's parents, and at the same time the responsibility which parents owe to the rearing and education of the children, has to be, under these circumstances as we have seen it, the main consideration. We want to give the rabbi credit for his zeal, for the program which he has instituted in his congregation, the desire to have this educational experience. In this case, Jennifer, which your brother had the opportunity 2 years ago to experience, and which you should, if not this year, in subsequent years, have that same experience, as your mother indicated, next year perhaps as a family experience. We feel, though, that the rabbi might have overstepped the limits of his authority without conferring with the parents. He should have expressed himself to them and then work out some sort of an arrangement either for this year or next year, and recognizing, though, that the goals of both the parents, the rabbi, the synagogue, the home, the unit working together cooperatively, ultimately for your benefit, Jennifer. So hopefully in the near future, you will be able to experience this wonderful lesson of visitation in Israel as a family member or as a member of your youth group. To all of you, we wish the very, very best for the future.
And so, in the case of the rabbi's role, the Beit Din today has encouraged the parents, Olga and Mr. Weiss, to take Jennifer to Israel all right, but to do that in a fashion that they think is appropriate for their family. And while Rabbi Friedman certainly took a step in the direction of education of the child and in promoting a good experience, that nevertheless this decision should have been made in tandem with the parents rather than the kind of encouragement that he offered on his own. The case of the rabbi's role in today's session of the Beit Din, the Jewish People's Court.